Good night. My name is Antonio, and I'm the author of FatScript, the programming language. And tonight we are going to look at the continuation of our little spaceship game, console game, which has been so far a very interesting deep dive into most um, common features of the language. I mean, there's actually a good part of the language which is related to HTTP requests, and that part is not really covered here. But the basic parts like interacting with the console and doing a more advanced um, curses like application is being looked into, and I hope this has been enjoyed so far. So for today, I think we're gonna polish this game and get it like into the final details. Um, Maybe even saving a high score table or something like that, and being able to let's see where we get at. But I want this to be like the final polishing part of our long series of making this game. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to already, I had done one commit before the last session that we had. And today I'm going to also make a commit for what we did on the last session. And probably tonight I'm going to also publish everything that we did so far. I'm going to put a README and link all the videos to this game. So this here is basically changes for the session 3. Yeah, that's it. And then we now will have separatedly all the changes that we're doing on this session on a new commit. So that's gonna, so basically I did one commit at session 2, at the end of session 2. So we have the changes for session 3 and we will have the changes for session 4. So one thing I think we can also split here is that we are using these objects here, position vector, position game object. All of those could just go into another file as well to reduce the amount of code in the main in our main block of code for the game. So I'm going to call this classes. Okay, so classes.fat, and then here we're just gonna move what are our types or sort of classes out of this place and just put it in here. And now let's just check if we are not needing something. Like we're referring to curses and we're using different kinds of things. So one thing I'm going to do is, same as I did here, I'm going to ensure that we already do import the standard library for classes before we start declaring anything here. I'm also a little bit, I wanted to check if we are using some global value, but I don't think so. I think this is very, oh, here we are, limits y. This is something that's a global thing. So I think that we should try to, so there's one thing we can do. There's a tool for FatScript, which you can just do, instead of running it interactively, you can just run P for probe on the source code. So this might highlight some information which we might find useful. Well, in this case in particular, what I wanted to show is actually not showing up, which could be the use of implicit values, and it's not showing because it only shows when you just use like a single value that is not mentioned elsewhere. But in, like, if I just use bottom here, but in this case we are using limit y and then bottom. So to improve this, there are a few things that you can do. One thing you can say is just put here at the top and say uses implicit values, like game object uses implicit values of limit y and let's check. I don't think it uses anything else. Frames per second. Okay, so that's also global of global limit y and frames per second. So this is something you need to provide implicitly. I mean, it needs to be declared somewhere. So because we moved it here, one thing that we can do to ensure our code, when it executes, this is actually in scope. What you could do is you can put here like param, and I don't quite remember now how it the exact details, so we're just gonna get help on param, which is, so using, we're gonna use the using one, I think. Utility to disable implicit parameter warnings. And it also helps us to check whether this is in scope or not. So what you do is, instead of param, you just use using, and then you need to provide a expression which is the text and the type. Okay, so what we need is a limit y, which is an expression which is a text, so limit y, and then the type for this thing is a scope. So we expect the scope of limit y to be in scope, and then we have also using the other one, which is frames per second, which is just basically a number. So we expect these two to be in scope. So what happens now if I try to run this code is it's going to give us an error. Hey, limit y not defined in the execution context, the other thing also not. So what we're going to do is we're just going to import also the config here. So now the config provides and puts all this stuff into scope, and when we import and when we run the classes, now it doesn't give us any errors. So these are in scope. So this basically just checks when it loads this file that these properties are already defined somewhere. And I hope that with this our code is safer in case you're doing like these imports. You're gonna have to check if those are provided, even if you wouldn't be using the config. And then here in main, we are gonna import also our classes. Now the game state, currently we're just declaring it like this, but I think that also this could be just basically another object, like another class for the game state, to organize everything much better. So to do that, what we're going to do here is we're just going to say a variable state. So we will allow it to be reset later on. It's just going to be a game state. So that will just initialize it. And this state here, we're going to say, yes, these all are numbers, number, and this is a boolean. So you can provide these, or you cannot, you might just not provide anything, and it will just create this object with these default values when you invoke this one. So we can also move this into our classes. and in our main application we don't need to worry about that. Now this is clearly something we are initializing, and I don't think we use so here we initialize game state. So yeah, game state is a new game state, and then we initialize the UI. We are creating some colors all the time here, but that's kind of fine. This is a method, so this should be elsewhere, I suppose. I'm just doing some reorganization, same as we did the last time we started looking at the game. And now we already spent a lot of time here just like doing some little refactoring and reviewing the code as we did the last time. And now I'm just gonna run the actual game, and it says there's a problem with that. Yes, because I'm not in the right folder. So this is actually code lab / SpaceShip game. Okay, try main and unexpected token on 3.3. So here, yes, because this should be an underscore. So we're importing all of that. Right. Okay, our game is back. So this is the state we left the game last time. Our enemies are already shooting. If they shoot me, I might lose lives, and I can also kill them and I gain points. One of the things we mentioned is that it would be nice if when one player, like if I shoot the bullet that is being shot by the enemy, like so if two bullets collide, they should probably, it would be nice if I could destroy the bullets when one hits the other. So one thing that I can check here is when I'm looping through the bullets is to check if one bullet is colliding with the other bullet. So that's so before, so when I do loop over the bullets, which is apply movement to stars, apply movement to bullets. So that's probably the one. Apply movement to bullets. So when I have these bullets here, the only thing I'm doing is I'm checking if they are out of scope and I remove them. But however, if one bullet hits another bullet, so I'm going to try to do this kind of find kind of thing. So bullet find collide with other bullet, except for itself. So bullet so if it's not in scope, we don't need to waste time. But before we draw it, if within bullets I can find a bullet that hit collision yeah, so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get over all the bullets and check if there is another bullet that collides with this bullet. And if there is a collision, then we need to destroy both bullets unless that bullet is exactly the same as the one. So if bullet is the collision, actually I think this needs to be filtered. So it will get collisions, right? So if now from the collisions we will remove the bullet itself. So we don't consider a collision like the bullet itself. It cannot collide. Like if the collision is the bullet with itself, then it doesn't really matter, does it? So if that's not the case, then what we want to check is, okay, we have all these collisions. We are just going to consider one collision at a time. I don't think we even could have more than one. So the actual collision would be this dot head. So this is a collision. So if we have a collision, in this case, we would bullets minus equal. We need to remove both the bullet itself. So we just don't need to return it. That's gonna be really hard. We need to remove the collision as well. So I guess we need to create like a collisions map. The way this is implemented here right now might not work. The reason being that we are just directly moving the bullets, and if the bullets get out of scope, we just don't return them. So now what happens is, if we have a collision, I'm going to just so if we know collision, we just return the bullet. So that should work. But what I'm saying here is one of the bullets is going to be returned, the other not. So one of them is going to explode, the other one is going to continue. This depends on various factors. So let's just see what happens. But I think this is not what we actually want. Unsupported expression list minus scope at heap. 118. List minus scope. Okay, so we want to remove a list from a list. Now that should work. So, okay, we have an enemy there. He's trying. It got a little bit weird, right? Okay, it kind of works. Actually, better than I expected. List minus scope at heap. Oh, this was a previous error. Okay, so there was no error this time. So this kind of works actually. I'm going to just keep it like that for now. We might have to come back to this. So I'm just going to add a note here. Fix me. This kind of works, but it only really should remove one bullet. But somehow it does work. So for that reason, I'm just going to leave this one in for now. And well, so one thing we already have is we can shoot the bullets, and the bullets, if they hit each other, they kind of cancel themselves out. If you hit your enemy, you destroy the enemy. Now, if the enemy hits the player, we are still kind of not doing anything, so we still need to check against that. That's one more thing we need to consider here. And let's see. So we have a lot of loops here for all sorts of things. We have apply movement to stars, we have apply movement to bullets, we have generate new enemies, we have apply movement to enemies. I think apply movement to enemies or player takes hits is two good places to actually check this. I guess apply movement to enemies is the best place because you're already looping over the enemies, and then if an enemy hits the player, that's what you want to check. So this is the case where a bullet hits the enemy and we destroy the enemy, we erase also the bullet, we remove the bullet, and we add points and we print the game header. So that's one of the things. Now, if we don't hit the enemy might have hit the player. So here we are just letting it go through, but there's another condition here, which is within this this situation, which is the player is not out of the viewport. It is not hit by a bullet that you have shot at him. So there is still the chance that it hits the player. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to collide with, I'm going to use this method is actually not perfectly named. I think this is, let's just double check the definition for this one. But I think that it is just really comparing object 1 with object 2 and seeing if they collide at the same line. So because of that, I think we need to rename it, just call it O1 and O2. And here we have O1. Let's just check one thing, was bullet here. So we are actually comparing O2 here. So O2, O1, O2, O1. I just don't want to change the original logic, but probably it would also be the same if it's reversed. It would still work. And then we're just gonna call, instead of collide with bullet, we're just gonna call it collide game objects, or just objects, collide objects. Okay, so now this function that's called collide objects, which was already generic from the start, but we were just for some reason calling it collide with bullets. So now we're gonna do this checking here of colliding objects where we were doing it. Sorry, I lost myself here. So collide objects, we want to collide the player with this specific enemy. So if we have this collision, then we need to do a few things. Same as when we check if the player was hit, player takes hit. So we need to remove a life, we need to reprint the footer, and also if the state lives is less than 1, then print game over, and state is alive is false. Okay, so all of that is true. So I'm just gonna move all of that here. And then if that's not the case, then we just update the enemy, draw the enemy, and wait. Actually, this is the case we want. If the enemy is not outside of the viewport. So we only want to do all this checking here in that other particular case. So here. And we are returning the enemy because enemy needs to go back into root enemies. It needs to be kept, maintained there. If we don't, if we wanna, like if it's still in stage, we wanna keep it in root enemies. Otherwise, we are returning empty or empty here as well if it was destroyed. So that's basically why we have this empty here. We're just saying null means remove the enemy. Here it's actually the same. Like we're just removing the enemy here. We are removing the enemy here and here. Okay, right. I closed the window. Okay, so. Now, what we want to check now is just if this hitting is actually working. So, okay, the enemy is kind of shooting. And then if it hits me, I took the hit. And like, I now am hit by the lasers and by the enemy hitting me. So both things work as we expected. So I'm just going to add here a little comment. This is enemy collides with the player. Collides with the player ship. I'm repeating a bit of logic here. I probably could move all of this like player takes hit. It's a bit confusing because this one also is named like that. Anyway, for now, I'm just gonna maybe we can improve the naming. Check for player hits. Let's call this one like that. Player take hits is gonna be check player collision. Check player hit by bullets. Or maybe is player hit by bullets. That looks like a Boolean value, so check player hit by bullets. Okay, so that's our method that describes what's happening here. And if it gets hit, we're gonna have another function which is player was hit, which might be by bullet or might be by enemy. So we deduplicate that logic. State lives -1, print footer, and so the whole part where we just apply the logic for the player being hit, we just call it here. So we don't also need to do all this stuff here. We just say, yeah, player was hit, and it does the same thing. So this deduplicates our logic. Now, I think the final idea here is the game now, when you play it to the end, it just says game over and it exits the game. So we could have like a little loop where the game just says game over and it starts over again. So if I die, I'm just intentionally taking all the hits that I can to die. So game over and the game exits. Now we want actually this game to loop over and start again with a fresh state. So the thing that we did at the beginning, which was like this state is alive, we can actually put it in another way, which is we have a main loop that is infinite. Now we still will have to exit the game by pressing Control C or Q or ESC. Yeah, so we have this can be controlled at the game level. And now I'm gonna just wrap this whole game part into this other loop. Then when the game prints game over, everything it's done. The only thing we need to do here is move that initialization part. All this init game init, some of this stuff we need to actually double check. So, but this one for sure we need to move it here. We need to initialize here at the beginning of this loop. Like most of these initializations should happen here within the main loop, and then we have this, which is the actual session or match of the game. Run, which will run until while the player is alive. You play that, and then it goes back and it loops back and it gives you a new fresh state. But what I think is there is a lot of things that we are initializing which have two different reasons why we are initializing, so we need to split that. You made a game that didn't have the restart thing from the beginning. It wasn't really hard to put it later. Well, the main problem is the initializations, as I said, that so this one is for the initialize the game state. So I'm moving everything into this big loop here, but we will have to see what is initialization that you just want to initialize once, and the things that you want to initialize more than once. Yeah, sometimes state management can be messy if you don't really see what you're doing. So, for example, here, curses, frame to max. This is drawing that white box into the state, and to the stage. So this is something we probably want to do as well. So I'm just going to do one thing, which I'm going to call reset UI. This is going to be a new function. So reset UI. And then we are going to move some of the functions here. So this is just draws that box. We also want to, so this initialization is something that we want to keep outside of the loop, because here we are creating a new color. So I'll have to search for these make pair, whatever they are. So I'm just gonna create another section here, which is init colors. So this is gonna go out, and let's search for this. So this was really one of those things that can get messy. So this one also needs to go here. The next one also needs curses. So I'm creating the player here, so I need to give it a name, player color, and player pair is this thing. So player pair. Bullet color and enemy color, I'm just gonna remove them as well from here, and move all that into the init color part. So all the colors, we have 5 colors being created, they are all here. Maybe the names are not great. One is called gray border, the other is called star pair, the other, well, we could probably just rename all of those to use a same convention. Probably that would be better, so I'm just going to quickly do that. So gray border is going to be gray color. Star pair is going to be star color. Player pair is going to be player color. And now everything is kind of a little bit more organized in that sense. And here we still have like this initialization, which is use pair and then draw box. And this was frame. Oh, okay, that's different thing. Frame 2, I don't think we need to reset this. I don't think we need to reset. So this is just once. This is also something that we only need to do once, which is just saying, okay, use this size of the screen to centralize everything. So frame 2 actually does the centralization, but this one actually prints the border, and then you have this print game header, print game footer. All of this is kind of part of the reset of the UI. Then we create the stars. We actually don't need to recreate the stars if they are always passing by. We don't need to worry too much about the stars. We could move it as well there, but it's not really necessary. Also, the player doesn't really get any new position or any. Oh, maybe it does get a new position. We could just force the player position at our game start here. So we just say, yeah, player dot position is that position. So it just restarts the player position. Then what else? Where are the colors? We was looking at it. So we do only once. Init reset UI. Okay, so the reset UI function is the thing that we want to ensure we do every time we start the game. Also, this stuff here, init bullets, init enemies, these, they need to be done. Definitely they need to be done at the exact moment when you start the game. So I'm also going to move those into our state management in the init game state. So yeah, I'm just gonna remove this. It's obviously all the things that we need to initialize here. So we create this game state. We also reset the player position, the bullets, and the enemies. And then I think that's pretty much it. And we need to call that function that resets the UI if we didn't already. This one. Init level chance. Yeah, this thing for the level, we still need to go and check for that later on. But I think that most of the things that we needed to initialize are already here, and I'm gonna initialize and reset the UI after everything, because it needs to print the game state, and whatever needs also to be reset here is gonna be reflected into the UI. Now there is one thing that probably is not gonna be fixed by all of this, which is the game over, which we are printing at the very end, is not being cleared. I don't remember where we were printing the game over, to be honest. So print game header, that's not it. When the player dies, we probably print the game over somewhere. Game over. So print game over. When is print game over done? That's something very important. So state lives. So we print game over at the very end of the game. Actually, when not really at the very end, but when the game simply just gets into this little state where it is already dead, but we're still rendering. That's probably not the best place to do it. So I'm gonna remove this from here, and I'm going to move it to the outer part of the game. So it prints the game over and waits 2 seconds. And after we do that, we need to actually erase this information from the screen. So wherever was game over, we need to blank out this message. So I think I'm going to do something different here. I'm just going to pass a method parameter here, which is a message, and I'm going to say just print uh, centralized message, and message is a text. And then the message is going to be game over for the first part. And then what we will need after that is just to override that message with something else, like game over here. And then after we do that, we need to print a message that is as long as game over to kind of clear it out. So I'm just gonna put a lot of spaces here, and that will do it. It will remove that message from the screen. And then it can restart and reset everything on the UI. And we don't really clear. There might be one more thing we might need to clear, which is if we have enemies, maybe bullets we don't really need to clear. Or I think we should clear everything. Yes, we need to clear the bullets and clear the enemies. So we just walk over those. So bullets dot walk. And then this thing dot erase, so it will get removed from the screen also for the enemies. So we just draw a blank space over them. Whatever the erase function will do, it just will erase them from the screen. So now we can continue the game. And I think that we have mostly managed the state at this point. So let's just check how this is behaving. Can't resolve scope of level at main 81. Okay, so 81 state level. Okay, so at this point there is no state still. Yes, because this is some initialization which is also related to the level part. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to move this into this init game state thing here. It might not be the right place. Like this level is something that probably would have to be updated somewhere in the middle of the game. But initializing the chance of new enemy here at this point is probably also fine. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna remove this here, and I think this is something that we would still need to implement later on to improve the difficulty of the game during the game. Okay, I think this now should work. Okay, we do have enemies. I can fight them and they can fight me, and if I take some hits here, I'm gonna die eventually. It's expected. And once I die, I don't see the game over and it restarts. And now, okay, the ship, the player ship is also, I should probably also raise the player. And I know why I didn't see the game over message, because I'm not ensuring that the message is immediately rendered. So for that to happen, I need to do a last, I need to call one more time for curses to refresh after I do game over. So curses dot refresh. So while we wait these 2 seconds, we will be seeing the message game over. And the other thing that we need to also raise here is the player.erase. So now that would ensure that we clear up all the stage before we restart the game, like before we reset the state. Now let's just try to die as quick as possible. I'm gonna take, okay, game over. And we couldn't see the player actually restart, going to a different position, because I died exactly at the position that Um, I died exactly at the center of the game, but now it should reset and go to the other position. So it does reset the player to its original position, and I can fight my enemies, and I'm also hit by the enemies themselves. So the game is now pretty much um, getting some level of playability. Like it already more or less looks interesting. I think there are a few things that could improve here overall on this game, which is the difficulty level. Like the game could get either faster, or we could get more enemies on the screen as we progress. Otherwise, also we could make all the enemies like shoot, not just the one that is like currently the only one that shoots is the one at the head. So only the closest one to me is the one shooting. But maybe we should do it differently. Like all of them could be shooting. But I think that for the purpose of making this a playable game and getting like a demo out, I think this is already pretty neat, and I'm probably gonna leave it as is and publish this um, repository to GitHub or to GitLab, so that everyone can check it out and have a look. And if you think there is something you would still like to see implemented in this game, or that you would like me to show, or any questions you have right now, please you can ask. Otherwise, I think that I hope this has been a useful demonstration of different features of the language for FatScript. And yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this saga, this is already like the fourth session, just focusing on creating this game. So probably, unless I get messages asking for more things on this game, I'm gonna leave it at this point and move on to other projects, other different projects. Maybe working on some small HTTP project using the built-in server in FatScript, or maybe I don't know, making some file utility using some different parts of parsing and JSON interpretation, things that are also supported by FatScript. Anyway, if you have liked this video, please leave a like. And if you would like to see more things, or have anything that you would like to see on the next sessions, then please put it on the comments down below, and I will surely be have a pleasure to have a look at it and comment and come up with things that will help you also have a better understanding of FatScript. Yeah, so that's it for today, and see you on next Monday.